Jake Paul is a terrible boxer. If you watch his footwork, if you watch his hands, just look at his hand placement during the fight. Look how low his hands are during that fight. Watch how he loops all of his punches. Focus, people. We have sports to discuss. We have a lot of sports to discuss. Let's talk about this Jake Paul fight. I just want to get this off my chest, and then we're going to talk super leagues in soccer. All right, but let's talk about this Jake Paul Ben Askren fight, because I have thoughts on this. First of all, it was a fucking joke. This whole thing going on with Jake Paul is a joke, and I'm going to tell you why. And people were trying to talk me off the ledge on Twitter like Joe Pro, but I'm not even upset about it. I just want people to know what they're watching, because a lot of people don't really follow boxing or combat sports all that well. I happen to cover it for several years locally and nationally. I happen to be really in tune with it. Yes, I burned out about it. Yes, I burned out on it for a while and stopped watching and going and all that, but it doesn't mean I didn't know what I was talking about in the time that I covered it and learned the sport. What I'm going to tell you is this: Jake Paul is a terrible boxer. If you watch his footwork, if you watch his hands, just look at his hand placement during the fight. Look how low his hands are during that fight. Watch how he loops all of his punches. He doesn't throw that many straight. If just from a pure boxing perspective, Jake Paul is a terrible boxer. So what does that mean about Ben Askren? It means he's a wrestler. This is the equivalent of somebody like Floyd Mayweather going and fighting a Taekwondo fight. This is what Ben Askren was. Ben Askren was known to be one of the worst strikers in MMA. That wasn't his thing. His thing was he was a wrestler. He would move in, slip a few punches, take you down, and wrestle fuck you until the fight was over. And he wasn't even great. Not once he got to the UFC. He was great fighting guys that weren't at the top of their game. Ben Askren is not the watermark for what Jake Paul can do against a legitimate combat sports veteran. He's just not. He was a one-dimensional fighter at best. I did see that. Somebody said he beat up a dude built like his stepdad. Look, that's the thing too. Ben Askren didn't take this fight seriously, and I'm seeing a lot of people say, "Oh, this fight was rigged. Oh, this fight was." Look, was this fight rigged? I don't know. Did it look a little sus to me? Yeah. Have I seen Ben Askren get punched in the face harder than that? Sure. But I want to point something out about this before everybody starts saying it was 1,000% rigged. It didn't look good, especially afterwards when he's laughing and cutting up, and then he's interviewed, and I'm speaking to Ben Askren, and they say, "Is this it for you? Are you going to retire?" And he says, "I don't know. I mean, I got they said, what's next?" He goes, "I got $1 million in my pocket. I'm going to go coach wrestling." Not a good look when you reference the money you made on the fight as the reason you don't give a fuck about the results. He said, "I argued with the ref, but it's his job." He said, "You're not fine." I said, "I'm fine." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am." He stopped the fight. That's how it went. Whatever. Now, I'll say this about those that are saying this fight was rigged. I'm not 100% sold on that idea, although it does look bad. And here's why I'm not sold on it. In order to rig this fight, you have to get a lot of people to agree to it and then nobody to leak it for personal gain. You have to have at least 5 people in this that agree that they're going to rig this fight. It can't just be Ben Askren and Jake Paul go have a coffee together on a park bench in the middle of Central Park so no one can hear them. And Jake says, "I'll give you a side meal if you take a dive." And Ben goes, "I don't give a fuck. I'm fat now and coach wrestling. Give me an extra meal. I'll dive for you." There has to be more people involved. The referee has to be in on it. There's got to be at least 2 trainers that have to be in on it. This isn't something that you just coordinate between 2 people when it's done. There has to be several people involved in this. Now, did I think that it was a legitimate punch? I'll say this. Because I saw some people that were saying, look how his feet were together and he fell the wrong, man. Look, there's no right way to fall when you get knocked the fuck out. Your body does what it does. The reason he got knocked out was because his feet were together, because his hands were low, and because it was a somewhat lucky shot by Jake Paul. All right. So these are all just facts so far. Look, everybody has a button. I don't give a fuck who you are. I've said this a million times when I talk about combat sports. I know you guys have heard this. What's up, William Robinson? Yeah. I hope he gets Nate Diaz because he will get his ass destroyed. I mean, destroyed by Nate Diaz. But here's the thing. Everybody has a button. You just because you're not a UFC caliber fighter doesn't mean you can't knock somebody out. So is Jake Paul, could that knockout have been legitimate? Yes. I believe he could have legitimately knocked out Ben Askren. Have I seen Ben Askren take worse ass whoopings? Yeah. You all saw the videos that were floating around of him fighting in the UFC, just getting pummeled over and over and not being knocked out. But here's the thing. It depends where you were hit, how you were hit, and some other circumstances surrounding that, okay? Could it have been legitimate? Absolutely, it could have been a legitimate knockout. I'm not saying Jake Paul's not a strong dude. I'm just saying his boxing technique is garbage. So I'm not going to 100% declare that this was rigged, that this was a setup. Does it look like it? Yeah. Was it probably? Yeah. But I don't think we'll ever definitively know until someone like Ben Askren or someone in his camp or the referee or somebody or that stupid ass robot owns it. Here's the problem with all of this, though. The problem is that this Jake Paul machine is just gaining all of this momentum and all of this traction. And now you've got MMA fighters legitimately coming out and saying I'm not talking about, washed up Ben Askrens of the world that were one dimensional. I'm talking about MMA fighters that know how to box, that know how to wrestle, that know how to fight, that are saying they'll fight this dude. All that does is add fuel to the flames of Jake Paul. He's never going to fight anyone legitimate. Let's all be clear on that. He's never going to fight any legitimate fighter because he would get his ass whooped. Now, maybe he trains for 5, 6, 7 years and gets better. And, here's the biggest frustration for me when it comes to a guy like Jake Paul. Jake Paul could be like any other boxer. He may be good one day. He may be a decent boxer. But because of his status and his celebrity, he's not having to climb the ranks like a guy normally does in boxing. I shouldn't say guy, girls too. Female boxers do the same thing. What happens is you start off local, you fight a couple of chumps that are also local, you get a few wins, you step up and fight a guy that's also beat a couple chumps, you beat that guy, and you slowly build up in the fight game. And you don't make a lot of money, and that's why you do what you do, so that you can eventually make money. It's like anything. You work your way up the ladder. You earn the right to sell 65 million pay-per-view buys. And along the way, as you're earning, you're learning how to be a boxer. You're learning how to fight the best boxers in the world. None of that is happening with Jake Paul. The only thing that's happening is he's got the celebrity status because he's got 20 million YouTube subscribers. So he's getting these fights, he's making this money, he's getting the publicity, he's pissing people off, he's playing the role of the bad guy, and it's all working. I'm spending 15 minutes talking about this fucking yokel, this joke. It's working. And that's the most frustrating thing. So I got a choice. I can either come on here and pretend like that travesty of a boxing card or that boxing match didn't occur, or we can just call it out for what it is. A sham show and some bullshit and nothing but a publicity stunt. And the dude's getting heftily paid for it. Now, he is getting paid, but if you were making millions of dollars, would this be the picture you took? Look, bro, that's all ones. I mean, look, I'm not wealthy. I don't have 20 million YouTube followers, but I'm pretty sure I could scrounge up that many ones to take a picture with in my front yard. He's got a couple hundreds in there. But like legitimately, you're supposed to be that. I mean, you made all that money. Come on, fam. You look like a fucking idiot right there.
And he's making a YouTube video.